kind of came true. We had been about the possibility of difficult Barca would find against this Inter, even though they were coming off the back of, I think, three losses. But we saw some parts of it. 3-3, all to play for in Milan. Who do you give the advantage to, Tom?
Barca, always Barca. Inter Milan have to play this Barca one more time, and I know this sounds a bit crazy. I know many people might not agree with me, but tonight, despite us conceding 3 goals, I saw a clear favorite. I still see a clear favorite. Now, this doesn't guarantee anything. Doesn't mean that we'll just cruise through them at San Siro. That doesn't happen. That won't happen. But I'm still quite confident that we can do the job, and I think we should do the job tonight. They scored 3 goals, two of which were, I don't want to say wonder goals, but they were kind of crazy goals. The third one, obviously, another set piece, another corner, which we knew going in was going to be a big task for us to overcome. We did not really overcome it. Even with Araujo on the pitch, we kind of struggled aerially and physically. It was still there. Their advantage is still there. Now, I think we did quite well. All things considered, I think we did well. Now, when you concede 3 goals, it's never a good night. But I still think advantage Barca. I think if it was a goal down, maybe not. But now at everything level, I can still see us going through Dev.
Yeah, I think will Lautaro be back for the next leg, or what are they saying?
I have no idea. And the thing is, I mean, Turan wasn't supposed to be there. Dumfries wasn't supposed to be there, but they were both there. So let's just, for now, just say, okay, he's gonna be there. Inter gonna do whatever they do behind the scenes, and they're gonna make those players feel better and come back. So that's what we. I think. Let's focus on ourselves, and I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's probably gonna be back. I would. I don't know what's the extent of the injury, and same goes for Kunde because we lost Kunde tonight as well. That's a big blow, but it
Big
was
one.
yeah, I don't want to say it was coming, but yeah, I think after so many playing like 4,000 minutes or something like that, something crazy like that, it was bound to happen, right? At one point, and unfortunately, it happens now. But that's just it is what it is at this point. But yeah, about Lautaro, I don't know about Lautaro. Honestly, I'm
So
not
for
sure.
us, it will be Leva, it will be Balde, and it will be Kunde. Is
Yeah,
that the prognosis, or are we expecting two of them back?
I don't think so. I mean, not at the moment. I think no, all three should be. Well, depends on what happens with Kunde. But I think Balde, there was a chance for him to play. I think, if I'm not mistaken. Now, is Flick going to put him straight back in? Initially, I would say no, but then again, he put Christensen tonight, and I wasn't expecting Christensen to play in a Champions League semi-final as his first game back on the pitch in a game that was this nail biting. I wasn't expecting that. So who knows? Maybe, maybe. But to be fair,
Yeah,
yeah,
but I think he's going to come back again. I think, like, personally, I think given the way Inter played, I think we were literally. I don't think we had an answer for Dumfries throughout the. I mean, he took him off at the end, but Dumfries was a terror throughout. I think the long balls were problematic, the crosses were problematic. So I think from that perspective, maybe a Christensen is not such a bad idea to think about in the second leg instead of, let's say, I don't know. Is it Gerard Martin? Is it Pau Kubarsi? Who do you pick out? But I mean,
I mean, it's yeah.
yeah, it's a tough.
Yeah, I mean, Kubas is going to play. However you're turning it, Kubas is going to play, and he needs to play. I think his substitution was more of a tired legs more than anything. I don't think it was a tactical switch. At least I wouldn't say so. Now, do we play with Jared Martin? There's more wiggle room because tonight that was a tactical decision. I think it was. It was. I think Jared Martin wasn't. I think this level might be a step too far for him at this point. Now, obviously, we do know that Jared Martin has his strengths, and we talked about Indigo at left back a lot that last week, and I said, okay, if Indigo plays there, a switch in the system is necessary. Now, the reason why I think this worked kind of for Indigo and for Barca tonight is because the game state was favoring that kind of a switch. Now, when you have Barca dominating in the other half, and Indigo can be position there, and we can control the ball more or less, that's fine. Indigo can play that role. However, if we have a lot of back and forth, that is where I wouldn't have Indigo as my left back. If the game is more of a basketball, ping pong, tennis, whatever you want to call it, type of game, then in that sense, in that case, I wouldn't really want Indigo as my left back. Now, if we can establish the same territorial dominance in the second leg, then Inigo and left back could work. Now, that's one question with Christensen still hovering around there somewhere. The other is Araujo, because Araujo was needed tonight. He was definitely needed tonight because we couldn't handle. We knew this would happen, obviously, but now if Araujo is in, how does that backline look like? Is it Inigo left back, Kubarsi, Araujo, and then Eric? I think that could be the backline for the next game. I would say, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. A tough one for sure.
Well, we have another backline supposition from Van Lee who says it's Garcia, Kubarsi, Christensen, Inigo. That should be the backline. What's your logic behind this, Van Lee?
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, Christensen to start a game. I don't think he will start a game. I don't think they will start that game because it just wouldn't make sense to me. I know that he might be fit, he might be ready, and yeah, people are saying that Balde will be back. That is a possibility. Now, if Balde is back and he's truly fit and sharp enough, there's no question. I mean, play Balde. If there's no repercussions for the injury, if he's not still carrying some sort of discomfort or anything like that, I mean, of course, yeah, Balde would be the preferred pick if he's ready and if it's I don't want to say if it's worth it, but if it's the right call to play him. That's all I'm gonna say. If we don't risk aggravating the injury or whatnot, then I think Balde would play. I don't see Christensen in the starting 11, to be honest with you, Van Lee. It would work if Christensen was, match sharp and actually not recovering from an injury or just coming back from an injury. That would work. But now I don't think so. But we'll see. We'll
Yeah,
see.
it seems. Yeah, this is a bit of a conundrum, but it'll be interesting to watch because there's so many things to take away from this game. One is obviously from the tactical and just how we played or we reacted to situations. The second is of uh, the kind of injuries that we have. Plus, there'll be games also in midweek in the league. So it'll be interesting to see how what are Hansi Flick's takeaways from this match. But before we take to that, uh, Dom, three good things and three not so good things that you found out that we need to probably work on. If Dom was the coach of FC Barcelona, what would be his
Three good.
takeaways?
Okay.
Let's start with the tough ones, the ones that we really need to plug in based on how Inter played. Because especially in the second half, I mean, every time I felt every time they could come to our half, that was a chance. Like literally for about 20-25 minutes. Then Flick again made some stops, some changes. Again, the game shifted a little bit, but there was this 20-25 minute gap where literally everything that Inter did, and they came into a half, felt like a chance.
Oh, yeah, you cut off there for a second, but okay, I'll. Oh
Sorry about
yeah,
that.
there. Yeah, no, it's fine. There you are. You are quite. It's fine. It's fine. Okay. Right. So three good things, three bad things. Okay. Let's see. Let's start with the bad things. Okay, because I think there are some obvious things that we need to address. The set pieces being one. Now, when you are facing such a physically superior team, set pieces are always going to be important, right? Always going to be difficult. Now, despite that, I felt like our box defending, I'm going to say, instead of set pieces, I'm going to say box defending in general. Because the way we mark players in the box, the way we try to prevent that or mask that flow that we have, because we did have a height issue, we did have a height disadvantage. I think the box movement and the marking of the players inside the box was not good enough for Barca. Despite, yes, Inter have the physical advantage, we know this. However, I think just defending inside the area needs to be a bit clearer. Now, does that mean putting Araujo in there? I don't know. I think it should be. It shouldn't be so individualistic. It shouldn't be okay. Araujo is just a natural of this, and everyone else sucks at this. No, it can't be like that. At this level, all of our defenders need to be at least efficient at defending their own box. That has to improve. Okay, second thing, I would say that when it comes to the pressing, Barca's press, I think again we saw Inter when they go inside, when they outplay the first line of press, and when they go diagonally outside to in, and then another diagonal to the outside. I think that was their most efficient and easiest way to cut through this Barca. Now, how do we prevent that from happening? Again, I'm going to say the counter pressing, fine, but if they avoid the counter press, how do we make sure that we are not always in a situation where they are when the opposite winger receives the ball, he's in acres of space and he just runs at you, and that's it, because that kept happening. I think that is the second thing that would I say was a bad thing, and the third thing is it seems to me that even against Real Madrid last time and now against Inter, they had a couple of good chances. They convert the goals. So when these teams ride their peaks, because when I'm seeing data, usually it's mostly Barca, and then the opposition have a couple of moments. I don't want to say moments. They have a couple of periods of momentum, and they mostly capitalize on that. Now Barca need a lot more. They need a lot more to capitalize on their momentum. So I would say that's a third thing. I'm gonna let you share yours, and then I'll go back and do the positives, Dev. So what do you think?
I think yeah, no, I think they played through us like what we had thought, especially in the second half. They had runners. Even with the high line, we did struggle. Yes, we caught them on the offside a couple of times and a goal was disallowed. But I think they found it easier than most teams to tackle with it. And we kind of struggled for a bit in the second half, mostly. I do agree with your initial statement that two of their goals were wonder. Think that those kind of goals will happen every day. Similarly, Rafinha's goal was kind of a wonder goal. That's not going to happen every day. Even Yamal's for that. So I think they kind of like canceled each other's out in their the wonder quotient, so as to say. Two of each team's goals were like, wow,
Hmm.
those goals don't happen every day, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that I felt. I did feel the defensively we were a bit all over the place. Now, whether it was because we didn't have the right people or whether it was because Balde and Kunde are, injured, that's a that's a thought. But I still felt with their size, with their physicality, with the runs that they were making, and just he's a smart coach. The way he has built that team up, we kind of struggled. I think this Christensen thing that he did was mostly to counter that. I don't think because he's a better player or not better player, but I think with people like Araujo, with people like Christensen, you just get size. You just get just and maybe that's what he was trying to look for. I think Olmo wasn't that effective playing within the lines today. But I also think because he was not allowed to also we
Hmm.
didn't really get to play the way we want to play with Inter throughout.
Yeah.
So those middle channels Inzaghi had completely blocked out. So and this the running between the lines that Olmo is so good at, he couldn't do it, and he was quite, I would say, ineffective for a large part of the game. So now, if I think about that, so Olmo wasn't like Frankie off the ball was okay, but on the ball didn't really see him do too much. I would love to know what you thought. Yamal stays. Obviously, he had a phenomenal game. Torres also. There's nobody else to be there. But if you think about then next game, do we? Is there a situation where we start Olmo from the get go? Do we actually maybe not start Gerard Martin, somebody else? Because again, the based on what we saw today, and I'm highly mindful that what we saw today may or may not happen in Italy. That game
Hmm.
is a totally different game. It can happen totally differently. But based on what we saw, but what I saw in the last the second half, 20-25 minutes, I wasn't very happy. It wasn't just fatigue because the kids were running. You
Yeah.
could see that, and it's not that doesn't mean that they're not fatigued or what have you. But I don't think that was fatigued. I just think we just didn't have a game plan for the first time. That's what I felt.
Yeah. I think a lot of that yes rings true. And I would agree. I think with Olmo, it was yeah. The thing with Olmo is yes, he will create those moments, so he can do things out of nowhere. So if Olmo is completely shut down, you can still kind of see that he can do something, no matter that unfortunate circumstance for him. However, yes, I would say that maybe he wasn't at his sharpest because he
At its
almost,
sharpest. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Almost it can be very associative as the number 10. Flick values that, but he can also be very, very penetrative and very, very aggressive, and he can make those runs. He can find the spaces inside the box and then capitalize on it. Tonight we saw one part of it, which was the associativeness. I think Olmo was good when he was receiving the ball and tried to lay it off and combine, and there was a lot of there was not much space to be had anyway in that middle, and Barca still tried to play through that because Barca will do this no matter how compact the opposition is. Barca will try to play through them down the middle, no matter what, no matter what the block is. Now, Olmo helps that. Olmo does help that, but what was missing from him tonight, I felt at least, was that penetrative aggressiveness that he has, because he can force himself into these situations, and then he doesn't need much space or much chance or much whatever to convert a chance. He can be a very good moments player from that perspective. Now, Furman obviously a bit different, not as polished in those tight spaces, even though he has been showing signs of that as well lately. Depends on what kind of a game we expect at San Siro.
Yeah.
Because do we expect Inter to have the same approach, just give the initiative to Barca and then that's it? In that case, if we're facing this deep block again, I would still probably go with Olmo ahead of Furman. But there is more scope for changes because in the back line specifically, I think Flick might actually play Araujo now from the start. Last time I argued no, he will value the in position more, and we
Which he
saw that.
did.
Yeah, he did exactly. He did. He did go with where we predicted he would go with the standard lineup. Now that I don't know if it was just our inefficiency to actually create that defending with the ball structure, or was it just that we lacked, someone like Araujo
Yeah.
to defend? So that will be a big thing for Flick to decide, the big decision to make for the next game. But on to the good things that you asked, the three good things. I'm gonna start with Lamine Yamal,
Oh yeah.
best player on the planet. I think it's
At this
just
moment, without a doubt.
I don't know how people can still compare other players or other wingers or whatever to Lamine Yamal, because there's no one. There's just no one that does what he does. I think now when you compare players to Lamine Yamal, who is 17, by the way, guys, he's 17. If anyone still doubts that he's 17, but the only comparisons you can make are comparisons to the greats, and I don't want to make that right now, because he's 17 again. But the only players that can compare Neymar, Lamine, I mean Lamine, Neymar, same thing, right? Same difference. The only players that can compare Lamine to are the greats of the past, quote unquote. So that's one massive, massive positive. The other one is I don't think I want to say mentality. I want to say the way that Barca handle game states. I don't think this Barca is ever affected by what the other team does. They can score 3 goals. With us not scoring a single one, but we can still come back. We can still claw our way back. We still keep going, keep pushing. We play our game, and eventually we score. And the third thing would be Barca. This Barca will always score. I think this Barca always has goals in them. So with those three things, uh, I'm confident that we can actually beat Inter away from home as well. And now we're seeing comments Kunde is ruled out. I mean that was to be expected, Kunde to be ruled out. But yeah, uh, yeah,
Yeah, hamstring. Uh, then there he goes. So I mean, who slots in that role is a question. The good thing that I would just connect on that mentality piece. Whether you call it mentality, whether you call it something
yeah,
else, but very seldom do you see a Barcelona team concede three times, and it's barely. Like today was also we're 2-0 down, then we clawed back to 2-2, then we conceded again we came back. I think any other season we would have lost.
yeah,
Now, whether this is because some magic flick has done, or whether this is because all the baggage is gone and these kids are young and they're playing for the first time, so they don't really have any fear, so they just go with what they have. Either ways, that mentality has changed massively,
yeah,
and we have been seeing that lately in all the games, because we haven't been dominating like before, so have been pushed, and when we have been pushed, we have not shied away from conceding first, but then we concede, and then we always fight and come back. So that mentality has been noticed, and it's not the first game. So I think that was one thing that really struck me. That
Yeah.
even we conceded so many times that the team. I never saw the body language of the team droop or players looking listless. They were at it, and obviously they got the rewards of it.
Mhm.
Now, basically, it's a 0-0 game with it's a 0-0 knockout tie at San Siro. That's basically what this game is right now. So we'll have to see how that goes. But let's assume Balde is not coming back and Kunde is also out. What's your back line, Dom?
My backline. Huh. I think I'm gonna go with Eric right back. I think that will happen now without Kunde. Now, Kubarsi will play definitely. Okay, so let's go with this. Let's go with Eric, Araujo, Kubarsi, Inigo. Let's go with that. Let's go with
Okay.
that backline. Gerard Martin,
Midfield?
I think midfield. I'm gonna go. Frankie and Pedri definitely. I think Frankie Dong was really good tonight. I know people are gonna say things, and he lost the header that led to the first goal, but we lost almost all the headers, all the duels in midfield. We all almost lost all of them. I don't think
Yeah,
so. Them two, I would still keep them two because the work that they both do is just a lot. Now the third midfielder, I don't know if it's going to be Fermin or Olmo. I think it's going to be Olmo, and I think it should be Olmo, and we should try and see what he can do. Now, Fermin, there's two ways to look at it. Do you want Fermin against a more tired Inter? Do you want Olmo against a more tired Inter? There's both.
almost
Uh, yeah. So maybe you could start Fermin and then sub Olmo in. But then again, Fermin makes more runs, and
runs.
if yeah, so that's also a point. If you make more runs against a tired team, chances are you can catch someone out of position or something like that. So that's also a potential solution. But let's say Olmo for now, and then the front line it is what it is. Like it's Rafinha and it's Ferran and it's obviously Lamine Yamal. That would be my thing. And yeah, Gerard Martin did lose. Wait, he lost 0 out of 5 or he won 0 out of 5? But I'm not sure if that's what you were trying to say. But yeah, we lost a lot of aerial duels. That was definitely the case. Even with Araujo, that's one of the bad things as well. Even with Araujo, he had a couple of good clearances and good interceptions, but even with him on the pitch, we still defended quite shakily. So
Yeah,
it is a collective thing. It's not a fix that a single individual can provide. If you just plug Araujo in a team, we don't suddenly become this defensive juggernaut. That's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, anyway, while Dev takes a nap, we'll we'll keep.
he's here.
It's fine. We won't. We
5 o'clock.
won't. Yeah. We won't. We don't do this one for long. Because yeah, does get a bit more difficult, guys, because it is a weird time for
Ah, no, let's keep going. It's fine. Go out. But here, what do you think about the? Let's talk about. Um, we we talked about the fact that they will play through it, and
yeah.
our highline probably wasn't as effective as we have found it to be. But Flick's not changing. Flick will probably go with this. So if nothing gives, but the same things happen again, how do you feel? Like, is there a middle way out there that we need to look for as we go into that second game 1 week from now?
If you cannot stop that from if you cannot stop Inter from deploying the passes, so if we cannot be the counter pressing side that I would prefer us to be always, and the offside, let's say the offside trap is just not as effective, which it hasn't been against Inter as much, then you just need to match them in whatever they throw at you physically, which means having Araujo and which means having Balde on the pitch. I think that's the only way, because those are the only two players, and Frankie De Jong as well, because those are the only three players that can actually cover large distances and they can actually sprint up and down the pitch if need be. So if everything else fails, if you can't stop this as a collective, if you can't be one step ahead with the offside trap, if you can't be the counter pressing thing that you need to be, then obviously everything that remains is challenging the long balls, challenging the diagonals, challenging the sprints in behind. And how do you do that? Well, you don't do it with a Pedri. You do it with an Araujo or Frankie or Balde. So this will always be my personally. This will always be the last resort, because if you are facing Inter in this kind of a game state, even though you might have an Araujo who can do those things, you're putting yourself in a disadvantageous position. I think, because it's not our game; it's their game, and to me, that would be the worst solution, but it is a solution. It's more of a band-aid, more of a moments type solution, but it's still something that you can hope you can throw at them and hope it sticks, right? So that would be my answer, Dev. But if it comes to that, I would say that we are in a game state that favors Inter more than favors Barca, ultimately.
So I have two questions. One is obviously the question that is here, which is, how do we defend from corners? But let's add another one to it. Is that how do you deal with Dumfries in the second half? Because I thought like he was all over us. We just didn't have an answer for Dumfries throughout the night, the 87 odd minutes that he played today. And obviously that comes with the corner tag as well. Not that he because of him, but yeah, it's just associated. So, what are your thoughts there, Tom?
I think, I mean, we made him look like, I don't know, a
Yeah,
much. We made him look like a world beater, which he has quality, and obviously, offensively he does bring you something. And then
but
Inzaghi
he
did make a
probably isn't
change.
that awesome like we made him look
No,
today.
no, I don't think so. But Inter did have a pattern with him, right? It was it looked like they were doing the same thing all over and over again, and it seemed to be working almost every single time, right? One goes up, one goes down, and then they just follow it through with a pass, and then all of a sudden you have the other side which opens up completely, and it was difficult, right? But how do we stop that? I don't. Again, if you are ever in that situation, we saw that if you get to that point where you have to physically compete with for space with them, with this Inter, you're already one step behind, right? They have the advantage. So to me, it's always going to be stop the ball from getting to that position in the first place. Now, to me,
But corners will happen,
right,
right,
corners, yeah.
Dom? Like let's the one that we conceded today. I think both Araujo and Olmo were trying to man. Araujo, to some extent was maybe a little bit successful. Olmo wasn't successful, and he conceded just like that. Now, does that mean, because they're going to play off that? There'll be more corners, and they'll be
Mm.
playing corners. So, does it like is it where a tall Christensen makes sense at the second post or what have you, or something like that, just to tackle that uh, yeah, that phenomenon that we saw quite a few times today?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think obviously adding Christensen would help, physically would help. Also, depending on in what state does he come on, and how sharp he's gonna be, how strong is he gonna be, or willing to tussle with these giants that Inter Milan have. Now, I do think that our set piece defending, despite our height disadvantage throughout because we have the height disadvantage against almost any team that has any physical strikers or players that can out jump us or whatnot. But we have been quite good at defending corners throughout the season. Now, tonight was obviously two corners, two goals conceded. It was horrible. Yes, it was horrible. The conversion is absolutely shambolic. But maybe there is some fault to be found in the Real Madrid game, which was not so long ago. Players played a lot. There were still hangovers, whatnot, tired legs, tired minds, even. So maybe that wasn't at the level that it usually would be. Now, obviously, if you play Araujo from the start, and you can try to mitigate some of that as well. But again, there's not much to say when you have such a physical disadvantage. So there's not much in those individual direct duels that you can do. Obviously, aerial duels are not just who's the tallest and who's the strongest. Timing plays a lot big part, movement and how you track your runners, and how you actually avoid, because Inter do a lot of different combinations. They will block your biggest jumpers, and then they will try and use decoys and blockers, so to speak, to put their jumpers ahead or just free them in more space. So Barca need to be vigilant. You have to be mentally sharp to actually defend those corners. So I do think that if Barca get to the second leg in a state of mind that's fresh and also the calm, yeah, exactly, and fresh legs, I think we can be better at defending these corners. But there's no magic formula that over a weekend we're not going to become, yeah, we're
There
not going to
isn't.
become a different team over the weekend. So I don't think there's something that we can do to magically make us excellent at beating Inter at corners. That's not going to happen.
Nope, I buy your point. Here's also KJ is saying the same thing that you said, that we didn't really concede like goals from open play. They barely scored from you know set pieces, and but apart from that, like you also said, that you saw a clear blueprint for a victory. You saw a team that was good. You saw a team that had enough in its tank to go and win this thing in San Siro. So I think you're not the only one. There are other people also thinking that way, which is great. Do we rotate heavily against Valladolid?
Mm, I think so. I think we'll see rotations. But then again, if we do see rotations, I do wonder who plays. Does Christensen get some minutes to kind of get into the rhythm? Does Pedri get a rest with Gabi, and does Olmo get a rest with Rafinha? I mean, there's so many players you need to rotate, and we don't really have the players to replace them because a lot of our usual rotation players are now playing in the first team because we have injuries, right? We have Ferran, who's usually the one playing as a substitute. You have Gerard Martin. You have
Off
yeah,
the
we have
bench.
Eric who's going
Yeah.
to start because Kunde is not there. So you don't have many players on the bench now to rotate again or make these serious overhauls to the team. So there's not as much as it would be a good time to rotate because on paper we should be beating a side that's already been
Valladolid.
relegated officially. They're already going down, so I don't know if they're gonna go, with everything they've got. At Barca, they're gonna be like, okay, fine, whatever. We don't need this win anyway because we're officially relegated. We don't know what kind of a Valladolid we'll get. We need the points. We need the
Yeah.
points. We need all the points we can
Yeah,
get.
we need the points in the league because
So
this one nobody knows where it's going. I think we can
mm,
possibly safely conclude that PSG is going to the final. I mean, of course, strange things happen, but based on the game that I saw yesterday, I didn't really think I didn't really feel Arsenal created a lot of chances. But that's just my point of view. I may be wrong, but if that's the PSV, that's PSG that's waiting for them, and we still have quite a tricky tie next. Let's just be honest, because it's 0-0 away from home, with notable absentees through injuries and what have you.
mhm.
I think it's going to be hard. It's not going to be that easy. That said, obviously we have the firepower, manpower, whatever you want to call it, to really get the result that we need. But all said and done, is going to be difficult, and I'm very keen to see what changes Flick, if any, Flick makes after watching videos and recordings of this game.
Yeah, uh, I think what we often miss when we analyze these games is that Inzaghi could change things on a whim. And that's been in the biggest thing about Inter has been exactly that. They're very difficult to predict because there's a lot of things happening at all times and all new things happening at all times as well. So what we saw tonight might be completely different from what we will see next week.
Yeah,
And we might see things that we have not seen the last 5, 6, 7, 10, 20 games that they've played under this coach. Now, I don't know. It's that makes this
no, highly
very
possible.
yeah
You're
yeah.
right.
It
You're
makes
right.
it very difficult to make any kind of predictions, and it always comes down to okay, we have to then look at us and how do we do things and what do we change if anything, and how do we capitalize on whatever we managed to create because we still had enough tonight to I think even win the game, but then
Yeah, those the posts did, like, yeah, some of them converted. I think there was probably another goal that we had,
yeah
and I
yeah
think we could have possibly stopped at least one goal. I
oh
thought
yeah
that set piece play was just atrocious.
yeah
Those kind of goals should be stopped if you're playing the Champions League semi-final. The other two, they were volleys. Absolutely, you can't do much about them. But the third one, I thought was avoidable. And if
Uh,
you save that plus, suddenly the complexion of the game changes, right?
yeah, yeah, I think so. I think so. We could have avoided a lot, and I think it changes a lot because when is it going to happen that Barca get a chance out of nowhere and then they immediately score it? Because we
Yeah.
usually, I mean, it seems to happen to us all the time, but I want us to score a first minute goal because imagine how that would change a game at San Siro. If we are the ones that actually score one goal first in the first couple of minutes, Inter would panic, right? They would have to throw everything at us, and then the whole game plan kind of goes to waste. But again, I go back to my previous point. Inter can play numerous different styles for all we know, so it's a bit difficult to predict. But again, I just want to see this Barca get a bit of that, you know. It just,
The luck.
uh, yeah, I know. But we did.
Yeah, I think
We
I think Inter what scored 3 goals from what, 4 chances or 5 chances?
That's exactly it. Yeah, I mean, they scored, and you know, to score two of such goals, and that was just insane. I mean,
That the starting was so terrible, man.
yeah, I know. But the good thing
Just
is they're
being
probably not going to, hopefully, knock on wood 3 times, probably they can't repeat those types of goals next week again because that would be just insane. I mean, that this is what wins the Champions League, by the way. This is what big teams can do. They produce these moments of magic out of nowhere, and that in the Champions League, when these knockout ties happen, this is often the difference between who wins and who loses. It's not overall quality. Team A can be better than Team B, but Team B can absolutely smash Team A. That's the rule of the Champions League. It's very difficult to say, okay, the best team will win. That rarely happens. But I do hope that they cannot repeat these magical
Yeah,
moments.
I would totally agree with you. Okay, Hansi should probably rotate all the players who will start against Inter the next season La Liga game, and a great opportunity to test the French players. True, but I don't think can afford to lose to Valladolid. And while they are relegated, I still think they will come and make life
They'll
difficult
try,
for
yeah.
us because every single La Liga team does
Hmm,
that.
hmm.
So I don't think they're just going to like stand there and say, "Okay, we've been out, so you guys do whatever and get those 3 points." I don't think that's going to happen. And I think the Flick, if he's not, he should take it seriously. But otherwise, also like league is always better than a cup. So hopefully,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, I think so. I mean, the league is always a priority, and Flick knows this. And yes, we as Barca fans can discuss. Okay, we won Champions League over La Liga. We won the League of the Champions League. Some people will say one thing, some people say other thing, but uh, at the end of the day, yes, I think the league will have the utmost priority whenever possible. Now, how does Flick approach this game? Again, as I said, I don't think there's many fringe players. Leon,
yeah, left.
there's not that. Yeah, there's not many left to play. You can play Gavi from the start. You can play Christensen from the start. You could play Fati, for example. You could do that. You could play Fati, but then who else, right? Do you
Well, otherwise you got to go to Athletic and just steal their players again, like Kim Shin Yen, then Ibrahim
Yep, yeah,
Diarra,
yeah.
and all of those.
So
You can bring them in and
yep,
start
yep. I
playing
think
them.
it's not easy. And we knew that this was always the danger, right? Getting to this stage of the season with players breaking down, I think that was always, a danger, and now we're seeing that. Yeah, it's a reality. But then again, we did want this. We wanted to be in every competition and play high level
Yeah,
games, and now we get to play those high level games and in every competition and fight for every competition. But then our style combined with our squad depth combined with just football being ridiculously packed and congested at the moment, that leads to this. Now, I don't know how better to deal with it. Maybe for next season we can learn from this season's mistakes, hopefully, and then hopefully over.
bring whom or
Yeah.
change what? That's the
Yeah,
question.
exactly, and we'll see.
Well, I don't know. I'm sure you are reading the same, rumors that we are reading. So today I read Jonathan Tah and Xavi Alonso on their way to Madrid. Like that's what I read, and there'll be more of this that will come through. So even when you learn, like who do you change and who's the replacement that comes in, because it's not so easy, and we have found that to be really really hard. From now, let's talk about Lamine Yamal also. What a generational
Yeah.
performance, right? I think probably one of his best at that stage. I'm not saying this is the best game he has played, but just the stage, the PR, how it came across. Uh, soon he will be like the conversation will be around, you know, to what degree is the best. And soon, I think at this level, sooner or later, is going to go into those comparisons with Messi and Maradona and Pele and what have you. Because I think today also I heard commentators talking about his first half was Pele-esque, whatever that's
Mhm.
supposed to mean. But yeah, how are you seeing this pan out, Dom?
I would actually say that this might be Lamin's best performance in a Barca shirt because this is the biggest game that he's played for. Yes, he's played against Madrid before, but Champions League semifinal, Barca haven't been to a semifinal in
In the
how
longest time.
how many years? And this is the
14,
first one.
14,
Yeah,
15, yeah.
this is the first
Oh no,
semifinal for
did we lose with Liverpool in the semifinal or the quarterfinals?
uh was it for the semis? Could be. Anyway, yeah, it's been a long time. I think since Barca have had the the honor to be at this stage of the Champions League, and for Lamine Yamal for sure, it's the first semi for many players that we have in our squad. It's the first semi ever, and especially for him, 16 years old and doing this at in the semifinal against Inter.
That goal was
Yeah,
just
it was
outstanding.
outstanding
What a
against
goal!
a team that has
Outstanding.
that is quite infamous for their defending and how they approach defending and how they don't concede goals in Champions League. We scored
No,
3 goals against them. Lamine scored that banger of a goal, but it was not just the goal. Lamine is now a player that creates, passes, controls the tempo, and then scores goals. Now scoring goals, obviously, we know there's a discourse around that. Yes, he's not scoring as many as we would love for him to do, but it will come. He's 16, so it will come as well. And I think the best players on the planet, or the best players that we have had throughout the years, are always players who find themselves in those zones as number tens, or not necessarily number tens, but in
yeah,
those
I agree
central
with all
zones
that.
because the center is yeah.
I agree.
And I mean, does everything that an elite best in the world type of player needs to do in the danger zones, and he now controls like more than half the pitch because I saw Lamine tonight, and again, it kept I his actions keep screaming Messi to me the more I watch him, and we don't want to make those comparisons, but they do because he was receiving the ball in our half, beating the pressure, beating 2 players in a row to just get rid of the pressure and then combine for the forward. That's the only Messi did that for Barca. In the years past, at least in the modern, let's call it the modern years, the newer years.
Yeah,
So you can't compare Lamine to anyone else apart from those greats, and it's painful for him because he's 16, and we don't want to put that burden on his shoulder. But that is the table that he sits at 16. How insane is that?
yeah. It's strange. That is the table that he's sitting at, and it can have like the impact can be both ways. It can be burn, or it can be you get so motivated that you go to
Hmm.
greater heights and what have you. So we'll get to learn about that. But yeah, uh, incredible performance from Lamine. Incredible performance from Dembele yesterday as well. So we've got all the wingers
Hmm.
firing. Um, let's assume PSG make it, and let's assume Barca win. Uh, where do you see the problems? Are the problems similar with PSG that we have with Inter, as the sense of exploiting the high line, dealing with crosses, and basic things like that? So, or with PSG, do you see a different kind of danger?
Different kind of danger, definitely a different kind of danger, but not. I wouldn't say less of a danger, but different kind of danger. Yeah. Now PSG, it's I think both Barca and PSG are special on the ball. That's the thing.
Yep.
So if you can't stop what they're doing on the ball, you're in trouble. Now Barca are not really good at stopping what other people do on the ball unless they have the ball themselves. Now that was a sentence. Again, it goes back to our in possession defending and how well we defend with the ball at feet, how well we retain possession when we need to retain possession. Because if we allow PSG to be the team with all the agency, the team with the initiative, we are going to suffer against them. We suffered against Inter, and they don't have nearly as much firepower as PSG have. PSG have beaten Arsenal in the first leg, which doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean they will get through, but I would say that Arsenal are
Yeah.
are a better defensive. Yeah,
Very good side.
they are a
Very
better
good side.
defensive team, and I would say that they're better overall than Inter, but they are the better defensive side than Inter as well. I think Mikel Arteta is probably the best defensive coach on the planet. Um, so if Arsenal go through, if PSG go through, either way is going to be a very very difficult game for us. We can beat them, I think we can, but they also pose different threats. I think Arsenal might be. I don't maybe I
Easier?
don't know. No, I'm not sure about easier, but
No, it shouldn't say easier.
yeah,
No,
maybe
that's not. None at this stage. I don't think any game will be
no, no.
easier. But I think, yeah. I mean, with the way PSG play and the way Luis Enrique thinks, I think, yeah, we might find it a little bit hard to contain them, to defend them, and than an Inter. Even though we struggled today on a lot of situations, but more so probably I'll give the benefit of doubt. We didn't have the right people, whatever, and that's why it happened. But at this level, you got to be prepared with the right kind of people
Mhm.
for these eventualities. And obviously, we don't have the money, so we can't do that. Whatever. But yeah, I mean, those were good learnings. Anything else? Flick can gamble our next La Liga game. What's the point? A lot of substitution, but it doesn't have a backline anymore, so they will not win. Yeah, that's thinking that we were talking about, that maybe he does gamble with Valladolid, but even with gambling, does it solve the problem? Is the question. Like, is it a fatigue question? I didn't feel that this was a fatigue problem today. I may be wrong. I felt Inzaghi had a better answer to tackle with, what we dish out, and he was quite successful in that to a large extent. But Dom, I'm keen to your.
Yeah, I mean, uh, mm, let's see. I think I still favor, and it goes to the La Liga, and just going back to the question here, I do favor. Obviously, I do favor Barca. All the way now. Madrid have, yes, they have lost their players to suspensions and injuries. But even with that, uh, I still think Barca have what it takes to win all our remaining games. Now we have a couple of very difficult. So Valladolid is the only easy game on paper. On paper, yeah, quote unquote easy game, because after that we have Madrid, Villarreal, and then Athletic Club.
Oh, those
Three,
three are going to be terribly difficult.
yep.
Oh,
Even worse because they are the of the last games that
yeah.
we'll play in La Liga. So I think
We have never found Villarreal easy, never found Madrid easy. So yeah, it's going to be challenging.
it'll be, yeah. So
I
maybe in with that in mind, and if we assume, okay, after Valladolid, Flick will only play our best lineup and nothing else because that's likely going to happen. Then yes, this will be the last chance that we get to actually do any kind of rotations.
Yeah,
This will be the last chance. So I think he will go for it. I think we'll see Pau Victor. I think we'll see Ansu Fati. I think we'll see Gerard Martin. We'll see Christensen. We'll see Hector Fort, Gavi,
that's good.
Thurman. I think we'll see those players because it's the last chance to see them as
Yeah,
starters because I don't think Flick will change unless knock on wood, unless something else happens out of the blue. I don't see Flick making many changes going forward. Now, obviously, for Inter there might be some, like there might be Araujo coming in, for example, and then Indigo playing left back, but and then for the rest of the games, if we have our starters available, the starters will play. That will be my take. Now
yeah. There you
we'll
go.
see.
So we don't know. We'll obviously keep a track on that, and while the game is just around the corner, so we'll
Yeah.
get to know it pretty fast. But all square with all to play for in Milan. It's just we just have to consider it as a knockout tie starting at 0-0. That's basically what it means away from home. Um, yes, Inter will have support. Inter will have all of that stuff. But then at this level, if you have to win, then you have to win against all these kind of odds. So
Yeah.
that's I think that's all we can take away from that. But yeah, guys, that was good. We didn't lose. In the first 25 minutes, I was like a bit sad that, okay, where's this going? But the fact that, and this has been a regular recurrence among us, that we fight, we come back, and they did the same thing again. So that was pretty good. Rafinha's strike was like insane. Those two posts that Yamal hit were insane. So lots of insanity, good insanity all across.
Yep.
But we also learned Barca's
Yeah.
weaknesses, which I think Inter exploited to the hilt, much better than most teams have been able to. But Inter definitely did,
Yep.
and we saw the impact of that. So that said, so given all of that, given the spate of injuries that we had, given all of that, like what has happened, I would say good result from that perspective. Like at least we're not
Yeah.
training or anything. Yes, it was home, so a one goal or a two goal cushion would always have been more welcome. But you take what you get. So this is where we are, and is all to play for next week, and we'll be back then to cover that game, and we'll also be back after Valladolid to talk about Valladolid. So Tom, over to you before we sign
Yeah,
off.
I think this wasn't a disaster. Obviously, as Dev said, it was almost a disaster because in the first, half an hour or whatnot, yeah,
Oh
it
yeah, that
was
was terrible.
terrible. Yeah, and we seemed on the ropes. Well, actually, we didn't seem on the ropes. We were, yeah,
No, they didn't seem
yeah,
on the road. It was just like, okay, who's going to, because we need so many chances to
yeah,
score a
yeah,
goal,
yeah,
and people who play against us like to get one chance, they score one goal. That's basically what happens.
yeah,
So as my point was, his 24 minutes gone. Who's going to score
yeah.
these two goals or three goals, right? So yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I mean, that's in the Champions League that costs you games. When you can't score your chances and the team you're facing scores two out of their two chances, that's always going to be a problem. Yeah, that's how big teams do function off in
Survive.
Champions League. Yeah, they just make these chances happen, and maybe it is the inexperience.
Yeah,
I mean, these kids, scoring goals comes down to mentality as much as it does to ability, whatnot. So there's something in that as well. But overall, I'm still very proud of this team, and I think we should be going to the next game feeling confident and actually saying, okay, we can and we will do this. Because if we don't say it, if we don't support us, if we go into the next game saying, "Oh no, it's done. It's an away game. We couldn't do anything at home. We're done." I mean, doesn't help. That doesn't help anyone, especially the players
no,
who do read things on social media, who do read the comments and watch interviews, whatnot. So I think we should be positive. We should be optimistic. We should be
yeah,
confident.
we support the
Which
team, of course.
exactly,
We're going to go
exactly.
with
So
everything that we're going to win this. Yep,
so
I
so
agree.
exactly. So I would say, guys, share this enthusiasm and optimism with us because that will fuel the team, and you'll feel better as well. Because there's
Yeah,
no point saying, okay, being down and saying, okay, we don't have a chance. We always have a chance. We are
yeah.
Barca.
I
We
think
never die.
we did pretty good. I think,
Mm,
and what was not good, it's fine. These things will happen. Like imagine the number of games that this team has been playing. So
yeah.
those things come across, and some of these things happen. But let's hope that we get a couple of people back from sick bay, and they can be part of the next team. That would help us in a long way. Let's hope that yeah, Flick figures out a few things on the set pieces and what have you.
Mm,
There's a little time before the next game, so hopefully, and he's quite pragmatic as a coach and as a person. So hopefully, he has some answers. So we'll get to know that. But till then, guys, take care, stay safe, and Viva Barca.
Visca Barca.